All right.
I think so. Hang on, we need to probably see if.
It says live, so.
Okay. All right.
So,
it's
live.
Oh yeah. Okay. There we go.
Go
Good?
for it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. We're set. All right. Word.
All right. Alrighty, guys. So it's Kevin. LayVegan is my YouTube name, so you can refer to me as Kevin or LayVegan. I make videos about veganism, philosophy, atheism, skepticism, and everything in that variety, all of the above. So that's who I am. And so it seems as if right now the entire community is scrambling over yet another ex-vegan, so someone who has publicly not denounced veganism, as was the case with Blair White, but someone who's just come forth and no longer identifies as a vegan. So we're talking about, in this situation, YouTuber Kalel. So she's a pretty popular YouTuber. She's got over 1 million subscribers. She talks about like vlogging, lifestyle, makeup, fashion, all that stuff. But she also talked about veganism for a while. So anyway, the theme of her video was talking about vegans who are overly judgmental, the ones who are harassing her, shaming her because she's not, quote, a perfect vegan, because she doesn't do the diet perfectly. She detailed that even when she identified as vegan, she would occasionally eat candy bars, 3 or 4, I think, out of the year. She once purchased leather shoes, but she didn't bother returning them. And also that she, there were a few other things that she did that were not vegan, I guess. So anyway, I guess that was, I figured that it would have more utility to do a group discussion talking about this rather than just like writing a script and kind of like delivering a boring like monologue in front of the camera. So that's what this is about. Just wanted to give like preface the conversation a little bit. So yeah, I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk about the coherency of labels, the definition of veganism, why incidents like this seem to divide us, and what's behind this dichotomy, just in like the responses that her video has garnered, as these inevitably do with ex-vegans. So yeah, I guess we can all just kind of say what we think about it and what we think about the responses. So what does everybody think about it? What are your thoughts on the issue?
So I think that Vegan Gains had the most ham-fisted. I haven't watched Ask Yourselves video. I don't understand Name the Trait because I am both dishonest and mentally retarded. So I just can't follow him because I'm just not intelligent enough. So I haven't watched his response. But the Vegan Gains one in particular was bad because it was unnecessarily hostile, and it wasn't. He didn't do it. It wasn't funny. It wasn't anything. It was just him going off on this ridiculous screed that served nobody except for him preaching to his crowd that already agrees with him. As far as her dropping veganism, it doesn't seem like she actually has dropped veganism in the same sense that a Blair White would. She's just decided to forego the label. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like her actions warranted the kind of criticism that she's received.
Yeah, I would agree. I didn't get very far into Richard's video before I realized how hostile he is. And I understand his fans like that. That's mostly what they subscribed for. I thought it was over the top in terms of how mean he was. And then later on afterward, I heard criticism of him basically for his, what was it? He used some sort of fallacy by association. Do you guys remember what that was?
Yeah, economic association fallacy,
Okay,
which
yeah.
he coined and doesn't actually correspond to anything tangible. It's not real. I see where he's coming from, but the actions and the things that people are saying don't follow his reasoning. It's just bullshit.
Right. Yeah, I was also going to ask about if anyone understood that. It looked as if, I guess, Kalel was talking about when she purchases these candy bars, right? She's more concerned about the palm oil in those products than she was concerned about dairy being present in the candy bars. Now, I haven't actually gathered the data, so I'm not able to like make an empirical case that palm oil, the industry, is worse than the dairy industry in regard to like animal well-being. But as far as what it seemed as if Richard was trying to dismiss the criticism, or I guess dismiss the concern by accusing her of committing like a guilt by economic association. So I think what he's trying to say is that I'm trying to figure out what the fallacy is about, but is he trying to say that that vegans aren't guilty of palm oil, the harm that the palm oil industry causes because it's not something that we intend to contribute to? Like I don't understand what this fallacy meant. And then his comparison, his analogy with taxation is incoherent because we all know that taxation is compulsory. So it wouldn't compare to something like voluntarily purchasing products that contain palm oil. That's not the same as being required to pay taxes. So I didn't quite understand that either. But
the first thing that you need to realize is that taxation is theft, and that the United States government is illegitimate to any sovereign citizen, right? And until you can get to that level, then I don't want to have anything to do with you.
I got a lengthy thread on that on the Philosophical Vegan Forum on theft being taxation, but I think that's a different conversation though.
No, so I think that he's saying like if you give money to A and they end up doing B, then the fallacy is that you're not responsible for B by, because A happened to do B. So that doesn't actually correspond. That doesn't interface with the problem with palm oil. So palm oil, by buying it, you're directly impacting the tropical areas that are being exploited as a result of its production. So it's a direct result. And he was saying that the arguments against palm oil were through this indirect means. And so clearly he didn't understand why people have an issue with palm oil, because he was saying that, he coined this stupid fallacy to suggest that it was an indirect action when in fact it was a direct action. And people's problem with palm oil and deciding not to buy it is it parallels their problem with the animal livestock industry and why they've decided to quit buying animal products, right?
It's not his issue, is what he's saying. Like it goes deeper than that, though. I think like it's this aesthetic like action about putting it into his body, and then he did that video before it where he was talking about in the afterlife our like souls join with the souls of those things we've eaten. It's just kind of like really spooky woo-ness of it.
He's a fucking idiot, like straight up. Vegan Gains, he's trying to use some kind of deontological thing where it's like the morality is in the action itself, but he hasn't read Kant. He doesn't, he hasn't read any of the newer people working in deontology, and it isn't pure deontology, but it's not pure. Its impurity isn't coherent either. I mean, it's not like he's doing a parfait or something. He's just slapping a lot of shit together and then somehow acting as if the action in and of itself contains the morality, but he's not. The reason for him making that conclusion isn't coherent. That's why I'm just calling him a fucking idiot. I mean, it's like, and I know, that's a problem that you guys have, and then I guess I do too, to some degree, in the way that he handles himself. But he really needs to reflect more before he makes these videos attacking others. Think about his own position, what it stems from. It's just pathetic.
It was an interesting thought, like to maybe talk about intent. He did mention that in his response video. I was wondering too if behind his fallacy that the guilt by economic association is he. I guess there's two ways of looking at that. You could say that he's saying that purchasing palm oil products is okay because the intent is not to harm animals, which doesn't mean much. I mean, you were talking about deontology there, which focuses on intent. Yeah, I don't think it's a coherent argument because a lot of meat eaters also purchase animal products without bad intent. So if you are using that kind of reasoning, then really nobody's unethical because most people don't tend to do harm. But we don't care about intent; we care about consequences, right? And it doesn't.
Sure. I don't think he understood that the reason for doing these things is the consequences. I don't think that he fully understands that it's the consequences of the actions that they care about more so than the action itself. And he is stuck on this idea of the action is bad in and of itself, but he doesn't have it bound to any kind of logic, like any kind of like real logic. It's just, you know, the action is bad in and of itself. And as Unnatural Vegan said, veganism is often a good heuristic. You know, if you are to just look at things through a filter, you know, a mental filter, veganism often is one of the best ones you can have, but it's not limited to that. You know, you shouldn't think about things and limit them to that heuristic.
Right. Yeah, there are lots of other heuristics. I mean, reducitarianism is one. Freeganism. There's all different kinds. And then I guess there was another thing. I did see that some people in the comment section were saying, well, palm oil doesn't necessitate harm, right? The way that producing animal products necessitates harm. And I don't think that's convincing either, because there are ethical ways to produce animal products. And the two main examples would be, one, cellular agriculture, something that I've talked about on my channel before. So like producing meat on scaffolding trays and bioreactors, there's that. But then there's also collecting fur and wool and other products from animals that died of natural causes. So I don't think that animal products necessitate harm either necessarily. But as someone was mentioning earlier, as is the case with palm oil, it does necessitate harm currently. It doesn't mean that there won't be a way to produce it ethically at some point in the future. But today, when you purchase these products, you are increasing demand, and
So actually, I'll interject there, because it doesn't necessitate harm per se. There are ethical palm oil operations that are happening, but they're not documented. The documentation of where palm oil comes from isn't tight enough to make those informed decisions to begin with. So yeah, there are areas that aren't being, you know, that are non-natural areas that are being used to get palm oil, but the vast majority of it doesn't come about in that way. And you can't determine which is and which isn't. So you know, it's best just to cut it off, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like the coherency of veganism, like going down the trophic levels, freeing up land, getting much closer to like the vision of the world that you want to live in. I think having that positive vision is really important. I think the rational stance to be on these grey areas is to be like, we've adopted veganism because we see this like really easy way to get to that future world. But like, be honest about like your laziness in not being willing to research other things that are more complicated and to boycott. Like there's palm oil, there's like almonds that if you really research it, there might be one company moving bees around, creating insect collapse through diseases and stuff. Chocolate, slavery, sweatshops, factory collapses. Like there can be good ways to do these industries, and there can be really bad ways that we should be looking at boycotting. But veganism is an easy one to look at and want to boycott. But we shouldn't be cutting off the idea that there are much. Yeah, I don't know much about.
I've got one for you, Lay. So, okay, whenever I've debated vegans in the past so many months, I think this is the first time we've had an in-depth conversation. So, I mean, I'm a vegan, obviously, but I like arguing with other vegans because many of the reasons that they bind their veganism to, well, you know, tend to be bad. And it's not really their fault, and they're no different than the rest of the population in that respect. It's pretty common for people to have bad ideas that are, you know, guiding their day-to-day behavior. But I will throw out a hypothetical for you, and I just want to see what you think about it. I'm sure hanging around the Philo forum, you're familiar with the effective altruism movement.
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay, so William McCaskill has donated thousands upon thousands of dollars a year to save people in developing countries. One of the things that he was strongly promoting for a long time was this BedNet program for Malaysian children.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you can donate a little bit of money, and it will almost certainly save children and, well, I mean, adults too, in Malaysia from catching malaria or some of these tropical diseases that are bloodborne via the insects, you know, like mosquitoes. And you can save human lives for a very cheap rate. So he recommends, you know, him and Singer are two of the bigger proponents of it. There are a number of other people out there, but they're the names that people often associate with effective altruism. Okay, so William McCaskill, let's pretend he saved 1,000 human lives over the course of the past decade. So he's a vegetarian. He's not even a vegan. And he has saved 1,000 human lives versus your average run-of-the-mill vegan, we'll say Vegan Gains, who doesn't donate money to these charities, who hasn't saved any human lives, but he has saved what would otherwise be maybe a dozen animal lives a year. Whereas William McCaskill, by eating dairy, is responsible for the death of, we'll say, a dozen cows in the past decade, and maybe half a dozen more live animals that would be living where the cows currently do. So the tally on each end is McCaskill is responsible for, we'll say, 18 animal deaths, Vegan Gains 0, but at the same time, McCaskill has saved, we'll say, 1,000 human lives through the funding of these charities and the attention that he's placed on these charities, and probably much more than that. So who do you think is a better person between the two?
I'd be willing to bet. What was his name? William McAllister?
McCaskill, yeah.
McCaskill. I'd personally say that he is probably doing better than.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
For sure, and that's because I value human lives more than I value animal lives, because humans have a greater capacity to experience well-being and suffering. So I would say if he's saving far more humans than Vegan Gains would be saving animals, then that would probably offset the harm that he's causing toward animals, because he's saving more people. And I don't really think that like vegan is the baseline, or that it's that threshold at which we can say I've done enough.
Sure. You know, you just said something interesting right there. Baseline, right? Yeah. So there's this delusion that many vegans are running around with of the moral baseline, which is a very incoherent subject, or an incoherent idea once you start breaking it down. And I think this is something that Vegan Gains believes. It's like, well, this is, you know, threshold for being a decent person or whatever. Right. When, as in my example, it's shown that you can be a much better person than an average vegan by doing these other things. I think that this is a problem, like the moral baseline argument, right?
I agree. I mean, if you analyze the entire, like, let's say you say, okay, the base axiom of veganism is harm reduction. So let's analyze the entire harm reduction continuum. Let's say on the left side, far left, you have reducitarianism, so just eating fewer animals, right? And then on the center, you have consumer veganism. And then on the far right, you have veganism, or possibly suicide, however you're looking at that. Even that might not be the best way to maximize harm reduction. But the point is that you have this entire continuum. At any point, any point at which you declare the baseline or the threshold at which you can say, I have done enough, any more harm that I want to do is purely virtuous. Well, you have to justify that, right? Like if a vegan, like Vegan Gains, for example, and I know we keep bringing him up just because he's a popular creator. That's the only reason why I'm mentioning him. He's very, very popular and he's relevant to this discussion. But he doesn't seem like, with the palm oil argument, it doesn't seem as if he really wants to address that. Like, is he going to stop purchasing products that have palm oil in them, right? If we don't have any moral obligation to maximize harm reduction, then why should a vegetarian have to maximize harm reduction by going vegan? And why would a reducitarian have to go vegetarian? And so on and so forth. So, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, you have to justify whichever point you say along this continuum, that is the threshold. You have to justify that because it's arbitrary otherwise. So I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, so their method of justifying it is the name the trait paradigm, for what it's worth, which, I mean, it's like Child's First Animal Ethics, Fisher-Price book. I mean, it's just cheap, watered-down crap.
It seems like maybe Richard is conflating moral baseline with consistency. He thinks that if he's fully consistent on everything, that means he's on the moral baseline. I don't think he's demonstrated why that's the fact. And I think, to agree with what Lay said, I do think veganism is arbitrary. It seems in the definition, when you say reducing suffering as much as pragmatically possible, well, pragmatically or practically seems arbitrary to me.
Oh, right. Yeah, it gets super vague. Yeah.
I mean, practicable is relative. I mean, maybe to you, like to Vegan Gains, maybe it's not practicable to cut out palm oil, but maybe to Kalel, it's not practicable to cut out dairy products. So isn't it relative? Why do we say that the universal baseline is consumer veganism? And
yeah,
that isn't.
I've never believed that it was. I will argue against that for as long as I see that no evidence is provided to say that it is.
And I think another problem of saying that consumer veganism is that baseline is that I think another problem that's really interesting is that I think it enforces complacency. So amongst vegans, we think, okay, we've done everything we needed to do. I don't directly cause harm. So anything else that I do to reduce harm is doing more than what I need to. It's purely a virtue. It's not a moral obligation, which promotes complacency.
Moral obligation. There's another weird dead end that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, what is a moral obligation, and what, like, compelled ethics versus virtue ethics, that kind of thing.
What I've heard is that ethical virtues are things that you do when it could pose harm to yourself. So you've obviously heard, like, saving a kid from being hit by a car. If it poses threat to you to save him, then it's virtuous to do so. If you're completely safe and you could save him, then that's an obligation.
Yeah,
that's kind of the way I've heard it.
Sure. So in that paradigm, an effective altruist or somebody who is approaching this palm oil question, the PQ, it would be like it is your moral obligation then to donate a large portion of your money to effective charities. Because you can, and it's not really going to affect you. It's not going to kill you not to do so. Same can be said with palm oil. You're saving lives. You're benefiting lives by doing so. But, you're not really going to be in danger if you don't. So somebody like Peter Singer would say, then it's a moral obligation in that circumstance.
I would agree.
And they're, like, one of the main reasons that we don't do it. So he uses a thought experiment about a drowning child. There is a child that's drowning, but if you jump in to save it, then you're going to ruin a $500 suit. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, it's similar to the child being hit by a car kind of thing.
Yeah, right. So, along those lines, if with just ruining a suit versus getting hit by the car, right? So it's going to cost you $500 to save the child. Now, if the child's on the other end of the world, then isn't it also your obligation if the consequences are going to be the same? Even if you never meet the child, see the child, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it would seem like it is, but I think intuitively people have this way of feeling more obligation to things that are more proximal to them, like closer to them. Like, I'm going to save one family member versus 10 people I don't know, and that also changes based on the actual distance they are from me.
Oh, that's totally true. If you look at the neurology of empathy, then we're wired that way for a reason.
Yeah, clear to see.
But I mean, if we're just going to get all logical about it and not go if we're going to try to be as logical about it as possible, then we need to accept that saving the child is the same whether the child is near you or 10,000 miles from you, Right?
Yeah, if you've already defined that saving the child near you is an obligation, then you can't say saving the child across the planet is not an obligation.
Sure. So whenever if you were to try to stack the life saved by Peter Singer versus Vegan Gains, then Vegan Gains is significantly more heavy. And I wonder if he would even accept this. You know what I mean? Do you
I
think
think
he would
Richard
accept
would, yeah.
I think he would too.
He would probably say something along the lines of, you need to be able to measure on the opposite end, on the end, which one is creating more well-being, which one's more suffering. But given, in a vacuum, these two statements, I think he would agree that that guy is more ethical than Richard is, than himself.
Yeah, I think he would as well. So that just leaves out, as far as angles that he would be taking this, because I don't really understand what he's getting at. Like there's no core to his argument. Otherwise, would be the definition of veganism, right? Which she stripped herself of that title. And if he agrees that Peter Singer or William McCaskill is better than he is in that scenario, shouldn't he also be condemning everybody around him who wasn't donating, the vast majority of their money to charity? If he agrees that one is more moral than the other, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
If he's going to give these people such a hard treatment, shouldn't he be condemning himself? Shouldn't he be condemning the people around him much more? Why isn't he doing random call-out videos on, like, he's done videos about Joe Rogan. Why isn't he calling out Joe Rogan for not giving the vast majority of his money to charities? I mean, it's weird. He's focusing in it on a very narrow way. I mean, maybe his argument and response would be, I'm a vegan channel. That's all I deal with. I mean, do you think he would go there? What?
Sounds probable. If I just had to bet, I would say he probably just hasn't thought it out clearly enough. He was a channel based on health, and he only recently adopted the ethics side when Ask Yourself started to rise. So I don't think him nor Ask Yourself have really thought this out to that point. Maybe Ask Yourself has. I don't know.
Yeah, that they may have. I think we would just have to talk to him to find out. Outside of Richard, have you guys seen much from these other channels? From other channels who are calling her out. There's the Eisel example, which I want to get into here in a minute, but
I haven't seen.
I want to see where you guys want to take this.
I haven't seen his Eisel's.
Neither have I.
Okay. Is there anything else though? Like, do you guys want to take it in a different direction? Like, what's up? That's just that's basically the way that I'm thinking about it. Is the path I took.
I'm fine taking it towards Eisel's video if you want to kick that off.
Yeah. What about you, Theo? What's up? What are y'all thinking?
Yeah, more or less in agreement.
Right on. Well, well, Theo, are you saying something?
Just, yeah, I think Ask Yourself, Kalel, Vegan Gains, all highly motivated by slaughterhouse footage, and his aggression towards Kalel in that video was hilarious, and but I think that comes down to either like egoism or virtue, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're measuring it against suffering. That he's really attached to the identity of veganism, and so I don't know. It's
a massive virtue signal, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's all it is. And whenever I watched Vegan Gains, whenever I used to be a bigger fan of his, the satisfaction I got from his videos was, as a vegan day to day, you're disappointed with the decisions that you see others around you making. And you have this pent up aggression throughout the day that I typically conceal because it's not socially advantageous to relieve it. I mean, I have a fairly good job in, a nice place. I don't want to ruin that to spurg out on somebody. And whenever I would watch a Vegan Gains video, he would be doing the spurging out on my behalf, and it felt good, right?
Right.
And but is that really the look that we want? I mean, clearly it isn't, because in my day-to-day life, I don't express things that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, so carrying on the effect of altruism thing, I think part of the problem could be that Kalel does buy into kind of a very narrow consumerist veganism, where she's kind of like doing this like TV advertising on her channel, and she's like she's trying to compete with like the rest of the world's like advertising for meat, and then she's feeling like she's doing a job then, and then if she slips up by doing like one individual action a few times a year, then that's not actually funding the industry, so she's okay there. And she doesn't have the vision of the wildlife and everything that we can move towards. That's not what is motivating her. It's soul satisfaction. So if she doesn't feel like she's contributing when she slips up, then she's okay. And there is a problem. There is a bit of a problem. It's like do you know about JFK buying up all the Cuban cigarettes during the crisis?
Oh, his cigars that he loved. Yeah,
it's like I'm just going to buy this little thing, and then I'm going to make the whole country embargo this country, and then I'm doing my job.
I got mine.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like it's a funny dilemma.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, I'm a cigar smoker, so I smoke cigars on occasion, and it was kind of good in the fact that there are cigars being grown everywhere, in many countries now, and there are all these cool new blends. But yeah, it's hypocritical, right? Like he's getting pissed off at her for eating popcorn, but at the same time, we could find many instances of him inadvertently doing something similar and with every vegan. So if all of us held ourselves to that standard, then none of us are actually vegan. So yeah, part of it is her misunderstanding of the reality of the scenario and the use of that terminology. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Am I right? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, just reflections. I don't know. Like the identity thing, like we have people who promote like the Liberation Pledge is like really just focus on identity, and just like never sit around anyone on the same table eating the same food, like eating with a meat eater. And then I saw like same critiques of veganism. It's just like in group identity, just like, and then that'll then somehow like the richness or the veracity of that will buy us more vegans, but it doesn't seem coherent that way either.
No, it's yeah, I think that's what it is with many of these people. I think CT knows about Sapolsky. Are you guys Sapolsky fans? Like, what's up? Are you familiar with him?
The only mentioning I've ever heard of him was from you.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge Sapolsky fan. Robert Sapolsky. He's endocrinologist, neuroendocrinologist, and a primatologist. Are you familiar with him, Lay? Ever heard of the guy?
I never heard of him.
Okay, so he dropped a book about a year ago. It's called Behave, and it deals with the biology of behavior. And in it, he goes into why people behave morally, like what's going on a biological level. And he's of the opinion that we're all deploying a form of virtue ethics in our day-to-day life and interactions. If we see something that we find unethical, then the part of our brain that's activated is also the part of our brain that's associated with disgust and anger and fear, those bad impulses. And we bypass our prefrontal cortex, and if we see something that's incredibly immoral, something that's morally outrageous, and we just immediately go into combat mode. So we don't sit and think about things whenever we make decisions. You may be familiar with Thinking Fast, Slow. What's that guy named? Daniel Kahneman. You guys know him?
No, not familiar.
He's like a cognitive scientist who did a lot of work about how people actually think versus how we profess to think. And what they... Lay, are you there? I hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I thought I heard you chopping. But are you familiar with Kahneman or Sapolsky, any of these guys?
No.
Yeah, I wasn't until recently. So what's actually going on in your head is you're not actually thinking about things. You're just automatically making decisions. And then you're using your thoughts, your rationality to support those decisions.
Okay, so it's similar to like what Harris would say in his free will book.
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And what has led you to these conclusions is a combination of, your biology, what kind of neurotransmitters you have, in what supply, and what neuroreceptors you have. And the other part of it would be your environment, like how your mother ate whenever she was pregnant with you, what kind of, just kind of the way that your brain was formed, whether something zigged or zagged. And, the last part of that, we all know, it would be our own personal biography, what happened to you at various stages in your development. And the ideas that you hold to be true, ideas that actually persuaded you. So in our case, we're all vegans. And we automatically are going to defend veganism, and we're not going to sit there and listen to people talk about it or whatever. We're automatically going to defend it because we already know the correct position, and all of our thoughts are going to be upholding that correct position. So whenever we see people eat meat, whenever we see people buy leather, et cetera, it goes against that ethic, that heuristic that we put in place of veganism, and we find it disgusting. We look at it as being barbaric, etc. It's all of the worst things in non-vegan, right?
Yeah, that used to be the case for me.
Sure, but that's how a lot of people are now. What you've probably changed into is you've got your. How old are you? Are you in your mid-20s?
I'm 20.
Oh, you're 20. Okay, so
Yeah.
you haven't even fully developed yet. So by the time you hit your mid-20s, your prefrontal cortex is gonna become more and more active, right?
Yeah.
And once that's developed, it's like you feel yourself getting really pissed off, and then you just stop for a second and you think about it. You're like, I don't know if getting pissed off is the right idea. Maybe I should hear this person out. And you actually become more rational. But there still is a large amount of that trigger in place. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, going back into Sapolsky, in his section on morality, he thinks that we all have a set of virtues. You say you're not the kind of person that eats animal products. And you're going to automatically uphold those virtues that you hold, whatever they happen to be. So an idea outside of this vegan example would be child molestation. Whenever you think about somebody who molests children, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, majority disgust.
Yeah, it makes you angry, disgusted, borderline violent.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's your average response.
Yeah.
Because, you're not the kind of person to molest children, and anybody that does, the kinds of negative impacts that it has on other people, it's absolute shit, and you need to rid the world of it as quick as possible. So he holds, veganism as being one of the highest virtues. Therefore, he's going to attack anybody who goes against that virtue. And on like a cognitive level, I think that's what's going on, right?
Okay.
You can see that.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you would recommend that we can read more up on this about?
I would say Robert Sapolsky's Behave.
Okay.
That I can give you a link to it. I have it uploaded in one of my mini media fire accounts.
Great, yeah. You can send it through the chat or through the Discord.
Yeah, right on, dude. I fucking love Sapolsky. He's one of my favorite thinkers, for sure.
Now, just to touch on something that was said in chat, I do agree with Red Room here. I was going to say this earlier. If we're going with the definition of veganism as the one that the majority of vegans agree with, then sure, she isn't vegan because she consciously made a choice to not buy a vegan product. But if we're going with the actual consequences of her actions, I don't think it's that big. I don't think it warrants all this attack. I think all of us at one point have slipped over, even purposely bought something that wasn't vegan just because, you know, whether you want to call it acrasia or just laziness.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to add, I mean, I don't think, I guess there are two different definitions. We can get into that, but I don't think it matters, honestly. I don't think it matters whether or not she can call herself a vegan, because she's still doing a great job. That's how I think, as a consequential, as somebody who cares about actual harm and not so much identity for its own sake. If it's hard, look at that.
To spare you guys like 10 more minutes of me going on a rant, I think that in the 21st century, one of the big goals of ethics is going to be trying to figure out the lines between innate morality, those automatic responses that everybody has, like child molestation is terrible. Like, I never reasoned to that conclusion. I've always known it innately. And there are many positions that you hold, like murdering people is bad, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you shouldn't just murder strangers. These things you never reason to. They just come prepackaged in the human experience, or just also in a variety of animals. Animals look at things in a similar way. You know, obviously a dumbed down way. I think that trying to find the balance between that and reasoned morality, I think that's should be one of the biggest goals of the 21st century. Trying to figure out what's happening on a neurological level, and how the two interact. You know what I mean?
Would you say that the natural, I guess, we have natural disgust toward child abuse and like molestation and incest? They have that natural, like, we think it's disgusting. Now, do you think that could be because of some objective truth about that being unethical? So, not that I'm not saying that, like, I'm not making an appeal to nature fallacy that like we've evolved morality or anything like that, or
I do think that we have evolved morality for what it's worth.
I was going to say that too. Like, not saying what actions. Sorry, my bad.
Hey, CT, do you know about evolutionary game theory? Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it. I haven't read specific on that, but I've read a few books on morality, and I would agree that it seems to be a mechanism derived from evolution, from natural selection. But that's not to say that you should base what's right and wrong on its actual inception, of course.
Well, yeah, I was going to actually talk about that, because if you do say that morality is essentially like evolved social empathy or something like that, couldn't it just become useless at some point? I mean, there are a lot of things that we've evolved that are no longer useful. Like
I think put into a specific environment, it could become useless, just like a few other appendages that we have left over.
Yeah, religion, right? It used to have plenty of value. Now it has negative value.
I still think it has a lot of negative, but I would say for like warding off nihilism, religion is something that I say is some value to maybe lower intelligence people.
Yeah, I think that, like, I would assume that everybody in here is probably above average intelligence, just because that's going to be statistically true. I think there's a lot to be said for people with above average intelligence, how they look at society and try to implement their ideas at a higher level, while taking people with lower intelligence into consideration. So yeah, I see what you mean in that respect. Like, it is valuable for people with lower intelligence for, you know, some specific reasons.
Yeah.
But you know, altogether, I think it's net negative.
Yeah, sure. I'm inclined to agree. I've never seen evidence that it's a net positive. It's just that living in a universe with no purpose, I don't really care where you derive your purpose from, as long as you have it, you know. If religion gives you purpose to not kill yourself, then so be it. It's like, don't try to. You could go ahead and try to prove that there is a God, and I'll listen to what you have to say. But you know, I think it has just value in that it keeps people from killing themselves.
It's an interesting thought, but I met a guy who said that, and he was like, I want to marry someone who believes in God, even though he's atheist, because he wants them to have that, like, I don't know, false belief that he can kind of trick her. It kind of gets into dark territory, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, so let's see, where were we going with that? I'm like,
well, someone in the chat asked, what do you guys think of Ross's deontological pluralism? Have you heard of W.D. Ross? I think, I mean, I can explain. I think it's a good antidote to hard utilitarianism, in that he talks about, I mean, the guy I've heard who's explained it best, called Daniel Kaufman, he's explained it as you're driving on the way to meet a friend at a restaurant, and you see the example of the car crash, and or needing to do the altruist thing of get in front of the get in front of the car to save the kid, and like you have to deal with the fallout of that. Then you still have a prima facie duty to the person that you were planning to go and meet that day. But even though it's irrational on like a practical level, on a theoretical level, to still hold that obligation, you do it by way of wanting to hold up societal norms. So you make it up to that person later. So it's like duties get picked up and put down, and that's how society kind of holds itself together. So it's good to acknowledge the kind of social fabric.
Yeah, I've never heard of this man or his his moral philosophy, so I have no idea what to make of it.
Right.
I was gonna get into the Eisel video, which I think has good points.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested in. I haven't watched it, so I don't know what.
Have you ever watched his stuff at all?
I've watched a few of his videos. Yes.
Okay. Well, Eisel, I have like a weird viewing experience with, because it's like half the time I'm like, why the fuck am I watching this? And then on occasion he'll bust something out that makes me totally rethink a subject. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I watch Eisel, right? I remember. So his big thing is, it's like, who the fuck is Kalel? Like, what has she done, right? And everybody's all butthurt because people are mean to her, but like, who the fuck is this person even? Oh yeah, Kalel, she's like the Peter Singer of our time. Like, nobody's thinking that. She has fairly standard stock, ideas, like from what you could get from Kalel as far as this fight is happening. The same fight already happened like half a dozen times with Unnatural Vegan, for example. And the reason a lot of vegans don't like Unnatural Vegan is because she holds the position that it has negative consequences responding to or trying to be so pure, right? So he was like, as far as I can tell, Kalel's just some kind of Instagram model or something who is extremely self-absorbed. And earlier in this conversation, we were talking about people not having morality outside of veganism, them just not, looking at things through this very narrow lens of, I'm a vegan, so everything else is okay. If you look at her activity, then she is extremely shallow. She's buying plastic surgeries. She's buying brand new wardrobes. She's not donating her money to charities or anything. So why are we coming to defend her in the way that we have? And if you look at her behavior and the things that she's crossing, buying popcorn, she doesn't need fucking popcorn. Just like she doesn't need plastic surgeries or any of the other things that she is blowing her money on. And if she has inherited this leadership position, then it's kind of her responsibility to read up on things and maybe not do some of the more simple things like buying popcorn. Theo, do you think that's a fair summary of Vaisel's video?
For sure, for sure. The only thing about that is I like the people that are critiquing her never watched the channel. Like we kind of let her do her own thing, and like I don't think she was trying to be a leader. Like
she was just trying to be an Instagram model, more or less.
Yeah.
It looks like.
I don't think she was an activist channel or anything like that.
No, it was like Anthony Fantano or some shit.
Yeah.
Jenna Marbles, that kind of.
Yeah, Jenna Marbles.
You know, they mention veganism, but they don't really.
The thing that's weird is that she did a video saying how she thought that she needed to put the name vegan on herself to advocate veganism, and when she's like a vegetarian, and so it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. She did a whole video, and then, but the thing about I don't know. I mean, these series of videos is her trying to be more real. Like she's acknowledging she's got OCD, explaining why she felt she needed to get plastic surgery, and like for people, like explaining that it was this crazy anxiety that she was receiving, and like she's not glossing over it at all. Like that is something that people can hear and potentially move away from that anxiety and take different choices. So I don't know. There's good and bad.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because I don't know. Just getting upset about her to begin with, and then for this narrow thing, it's not because she's some kind of shallow person who's not doing more in society. Blah blah blah. It's because she bought fucking popcorn. I mean, that's kind of a weird thing to get upset with her about too. It's like,
I just don't understand like why. Here's my. I guess we can get into the arbitrary distinction. Maybe we've already discussed this, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know, attention deficit, or like we can maybe talk about the arbitrary distinction between animal and non-animal products. So why is it that we are having this debate about Kalel self-identifying as vegan because she purchased what 3 or 4 candy bars a year? Meanwhile, we have vegans who purchase, I don't know, a tub of Earth Balance once every other month throughout all 12 months. So aren't they contributing to more harm by purchasing Earth Balance?
Yeah.
Like why do we care that she purchased a few candy bars when there's vegans who are contributing to far more harm with Earth Balance and with other products that are so-called vegan?
This goes, okay, I'm glad we had the conversation in this direction. I was thinking about it a second ago, and I was thinking, like, this has mostly just been me, like, ranting in a very boring manner. But to answer that, it's because they're operating on some kind of, on a neurological level, they're operating with some form of virtue ethics, right? They have this heuristic in place of, if vegan, therefore good. If vegan, I'm a vegan, so that's all that's required. And they're not thinking about things more broadly, right?
So what
do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pinpoint though that distinction between those products. You're saying non-animal products, they're good, animal products bad, but then we have non-animal products that are also bad. So what's the distinction? I guess you're saying, I mean, it is veganism.
Yeah, they're just operating on this really shitty heuristic. Like, it's like a formula, right? Like you said, it's that simple.
Right? Like there are other veganism, as you were saying earlier, like Unnatural Vegan pointed that veganism often falls in its right. Like veganism often falls in the correct path. But what if it doesn't? I mean, what if there's like other heuristics besides veganism?
Oh, and there are, yeah.
It just seems like such an arbitrary way to like. It's an arbitrary distinction. I don't think it matters that she purchased those candy bars. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it really matters. But if other people disagree with me, I mean, I'm open to that. But
I think it matters. Just the scope of it mattering is so insignificant as to not warrant the response that she received.
Exactly. At least if there's going to be a response, then we need to be consistent about it. We need to talk about vegans who are also contributing to harm with palm oil.
Yeah, I think what they try to do with that is they'll shimmy it in kind of a way where they're saying they're not doing direct harm. Like, hey, I bought an iPhone but nothing about me buying this iPhone necessitates that there has to be child labor, but then there just happens to be later on. It's not direct, which of course isn't really valid. I would say if they're aware they're doing any harm, they should stop.
Well,
but that's something I'd say the vegans would say.
I don't know if I think that's perhaps a misunderstanding of economics, but I mean, these companies are chopping down rainforest to create land. I think I had a statistic here from the World Wildlife Fund. I think they said an area that's equivalent to the size of about 300 football fields of rainforest are cleared per hour to make way for palm oil production. So this is like economically, you're supporting these companies doing this when you purchase palm oil products. It doesn't mean that there can't possibly be a sustainable way to produce it, but your intention is irrelevant. I mean, economically, you are directly supporting deforestation when you purchase palm oil, even if your intention is not to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I was just saying what their rationale for that would be.
Yeah, which is an invalid rationale.
Yeah,
I think that's what vegan means. I think that's what
I've heard vegan gains, and Isaac even mentioned something similar.
Right, and I mean, vice versa. I don't even think that animal product production, again, that necessitates harm either. I think there are ethical ways, or not raise animals, but to produce animal products like meat. So we have clean meat, for example. So I don't know if I don't think that the distinction between animal products and non-animal products that vegans often make, I don't think that's a correct distinction.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Now, this may be way out of the realm of possibility, but it seems that it could be possible. That is veganism just such a boring topic that anytime something like this happens, they feel like they have to blow up and make videos about it.
I thought, like, why do these videos cause such a fuss when there's a bigger issue?
Yeah, I think it is.
Like 90% of vegan YouTubers is drama and like responding to petty videos and like blowing things out of proportion. Like the Blair White thing, like wasn't that? Well, no, hers is a little bit different because she was spreading lies about liver toxicity and vitamins, but this is different, obviously. But yeah, I don't know if it's like I've thought the same thing. Like, is this like, do we need to be making a big deal out of this?
Yeah, because it seems when things kind of die down in the community, you got Richard going to making his kind of vlog videos that are kind of boring, and then he'll just wait for something really, really minute to pop up for him to make a huge video on and start yelling at people.
And to be fair, I'm sure his fans look that up. I'm sure they love it.
They love it. I checked the comments. Every single comment loved it.
What was that?
All of his comments in his original Kalel video, they all loved his bringing back of the yelling kind of guy.
Yeah, I saw that. I noticed that, like, oh, this is the Richard that we all love, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Why do they love him? I really do think that it's because a lot of vegans have pent up aggression throughout the day, and this is their outlet for expressing it, right? They get to see this Spurg like yell at people, and it feels good.
Right. Yeah, it was what you said earlier. I agree with it.
Yeah. So there's something human, though. There's something deeply human about that desire of wanting somebody to be belligerent on your behalf, right? Or you want to be belligerent yourself.
Just slurping it up.
Yeah, it feels good. Like, I watched the Antifa versus Proud Boys on last Saturday. I sat in front of my computer for like 2 hours, hoping that like one of the Antifa people or one of the Proud Boys was going to attack the other group. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is going to be awesome. Fucking fascism versus communism, right, in the streets. It's going to be cool. And nothing happened. And I left disappointed that violence didn't occur. I mean, like, what's that? Like, why am I thinking that?
WWE wrestling.
Hey, can you just turn off the camera?
Yeah, I would never miss an opportunity to see violence against Antifa.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted you to hold the camera because I was going to grab something.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah, my wife's coming to the living room. I slapped that bitch. I told her, you need to get in the fucking room because daddy's trying to stream. And I guess she wants the belt again. See, you guys are just laughing at domestic violence. I mean, it's
now, serious question: is spanking during sex vegan?
Order your pizza. Pop some
Keep this PG,
yeah,
guys.
let's do it.
Can't get
I'll see
ads.
if there's like better food. Order
All right.
first, but I'm watching versus this one's anymore.
Oh, damn, that was fucking good. All right, can I turn my camera back on, babe?
Hold on.
All right. Oh, sorry, I didn't. I thought my mic was muted.
So yeah, I don't know. Where else?
Were there any other notable response videos that you guys saw besides Unnatural Vegan and Vegan Gains? I think we discussed their responses.
Did we talk about Isaac's response video?
Isaac's
Oh,
or
no,
Isaac?
his was on. Never mind. Isaac's was on Unnatural Vegan, not on Kalel.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. Do you guys? Anybody else watched it?
I've seen it.
What was it about?
He was just
Oh,
pointing out what he thinks is a contradiction with Unnatural Vegan's opinions. She, in one video way back when, she defined someone who knows that they're buying something that isn't vegan, that they're no longer vegan, and then now she holds the opposite opinion. So he was trying to say that's a contradiction, but when in reality she could have just changed her mind from that point to now.
What's this obsession that this guy has with logical consistency?
First of all, I was gonna say,
Consistency, that's what holds his whole moral framework together. That's why he's so obsessed with it.
does she
Yeah,
hold?
but it
Does
isn't.
she hold either position simultaneously? Like how would that?
No,
be
there was no evidence that she held them simultaneously.
And then I'm also thinking that they are different as well. Was that what Vegan Cheetahs? Like Vegan's video? Is that
It might have been. I don't.
Yeah,
the,
I know what
the
you're
video
talking
didn't have
about.
context really.
because I think
actually
with him
thought
he was.
that.
I think he
Cynically.
was defining actions as vegan that were clearly not vegan. Like he was saying I Oriental ramen with like what the chicken seasoning
It was
packets.
him, yeah.
and then
It was a ramen noodle. Yeah, I'm
right. And
remembering it.
I think she was saying, you're not really, by that definition, you wouldn't be classified as an ethical vegan, but perhaps you're a dietary vegan. But with Kalel's case, she was using a definition of vegan that was perhaps not a definition that most of us use because it's so very limiting. The dictionary, veganism, like vegans do not eat or wear or use animal products. That's a very limiting definition. Most of us don't use that definition. But I do think that those contexts are different. I don't think that's contradictory at all.
Yeah, Unnatural Vegan was saying it was cynical, Charles, and we shouldn't buy into that thing of just letting him buy products, because it would just destroy the definition. But she was agreeing with Kalel in that she was saying we shouldn't let people use the definition of buying any products with Kalel either, but she was acknowledging that it was a struggle for Kalel to get to veganism for over a longer period, and that she was bringing up genuine things that she doesn't want to get anxiety over, like squishing a bug or something, and that if we have, I don't know, like she's still in this very consumerist vegan mindset of just reacting to slaughterhouse footage, and then if she has a greater vision of veganism, then she won't be so. She doesn't want she doesn't know what that vision is, but she doesn't want everyone attacking her over this ideal that she thinks is impossible, like squishing bugs. She doesn't. Yeah, so that's where she's caught up in, and that's what Unnatural Vegan was sympathizing with.
Yeah, if I had to summarize it, I would just say it's little squabbles in the vegan community, a lot of infighting, just the typical, nothing that actually has any huge consequences for the animals themselves, of course.
Not much utility.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that what if it does have utility?
What would that utility look like?
What has utility?
Well, earlier we were talking about how people love fighting, right?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that utility. I meant no utility to the animal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
yeah, I was going to say it might have emotional utility for sure.
It does, right? But the idea with YouTube is you're trying to pull people in to watch your vegan content or whatever, right? If we stream it and we're like, hell yeah, tonight Antifa versus Proud Boys, it's going to be like a fucking brawl fucking stoked. I know you want to see it. I know you want to see World War II happen in the streets of Portland. So it's like Unnatural Vegan versus Vegan Gains. I mean, it's blood sports, right? Remember that program that Andy Worski was running where it's like all these fucking weirdos just yelling at each other? People loved it because it was just, I mean, it's like Mr. Mediker said. It's two retards just screaming at each other. So, oh, what the fuck? This is bullshit. I demand some delivered vegan food right now, god damn it.
Thai?
Yeah, we could get Thai or we could do, or hold on, let me mute this shit, because I don't care.
Green color, that looks good. So
yeah, there was another point I wanted to maybe talk about was whether or not our activism, like the focus of our activism, should even be consumption based. I think Kalel brought this up in her PSA to vegans. I don't know if you guys
go on. Yeah, consumption based.
And that point made me think of Teo, you might know about this. I think Brimstone Child started a criticism thread on the forum to J.C.'s speech. I don't know if you watched the TEDx talk. Did you watch that?
Yeah.
Right. So in his talk, he was he acknowledged that everyone can help to improve animal welfare by focusing more on inciting corporate change in businesses, nonprofits, and governments. So he argues that like this kind of effective altruist method, which is more evidence-based, it helps people to avoid what psychologists call the collapse of compassion. So it's that sense of apathy that can overwhelm us when we see a big problem having a big solution. He talked about an example where he was protesting a big restaurant chain, and I think they were fighting for something like very insignificant, like treating their chickens better that they were purchasing. I think they were requiring that the sheds that they're kept in have windows. And a person, I guess a bystander, came up and was saying like, "Wow, I really appreciate this. This is great. Thank you for fighting for this." And then JC asked him to join. He said, "Well, why don't you join us?" And he was like, "Oh, well, I'm not vegetarian." So that kind of thing, I think, is alienating. Focusing our activism, veganism synonymous with animal rights, is perhaps not helpful because it alienates everybody who isn't a vegan or can't be a vegan for practical reasons.
I agree. I often will order products that are specific vegan items, or I make it known through my purchasing habits that I am interested in vegan food. I buy a fuck ton of mock meats, et cetera, specifically because I'm trying to stack the marketing data in a certain way. And once they expand the options, et cetera, then veganism is going to become more and more practical for your average person. So is this form of entertainment even the best focus value, blah, blah, blah. I think at the end of the day, a multi-pronged approach is going to be the best solution, because some people will be swept in with Vegan Gains just calling people retards a dozen times. Or I guess Ask Yourself does that even more. But some people will be pulled in because there are more items that are available. Other people for... hell, I don't know. There are a variety of different reasons why people are drawn into veganism. So I don't know which way is. I would assume that the way that you're talking about more items, et cetera, is more effective. But if other people want to expel their energy in a different direction, I think that the more people doing more things, it's probably going to be better.
Sure. I mean, I agree. I think that the different strokes, different folks. So there are some people respond differently to different kinds of activism. In my experience, the lobbying, the moving for, like pushing for corporate changes, that has been more effective than, I don't know, Cube of Truth or something like that, like kind of standing out in the street with a mask. That hasn't really been very productive. A lot of people haven't really opened up that kind of activism, at least in my experience. I know other people have had really great stories, but
yeah. Everyone needs a paradigm that they can grasp onto, and but if it's a really bad one, then they can turn around and make them question veganism. So it has to be something like effective altruism. I think it's one paradigm that if they that can keep people vegan long term, then that's great. But I think Kalel doesn't have one at the moment. I think that's what's her problem.
Yeah, is she driving more people to veganism through Instagram modeling?
Yeah,
I mean, she very well may could. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, for sure, but like it's yeah,
it's like the most popular girl for a long time, or most popular channel period for a long time was Freely, right? And she was just lying to people, telling them if you turn vegan, then you're going to lose a fuck ton of weight and you're going to have a perfect body. And enough suckers bought it. So they subscribed to her channel and they were considering it, et cetera, et cetera. But then it comes to the factor of long-term success rate through these different methods, right?
Right. I've even heard that like people have said, oh, well, lying for veganism is okay because it's still going to get them to ultimately give up animal products. But does that hold very often after the lie is discovered, or after we use terrible ethical arguments to convince them, or empirical arguments? If we exaggerate about the health benefits, I mean, will that keep them vegan when they realize, oh wait, it's exaggerated, it's not quite. So yeah, I agree. But you have to think about that as well.
Sure.
I'm gonna guess probably no. Although there are people who are still Christian, like 2018. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Kalel said in a Why to Go Vegan, Why I'm Vegan video, she said, talk to people about how your hair grows faster when you go vegan. That's like facepalm. It's like, I don't know. It's just it all feels very shallow and superficial. So I'm not surprised that they weren't keeping to 100%. But yeah.
Hey, Lay, have you figured out what career path you want to take yet?
What career path?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely irrelevant to what I do online.
No, yeah. If you read into a lot of the effective altruist guys, at least sometimes they recommend you getting into computer programming, right? That's one of the best ways to make a fuck ton of money and have a job that's going to be personally rewarding. So I've actually taken them up on that. I have been learning computer programming for the past year. I bring this up to say that there is actually a way that we could determine which form of vegan activism is the most effective, and like what's driving people to veganism, making them stay veganism, through using like different tools to look at tweets and to see what was effective for achieving whatever solution. And there are actual empirical ways that we can find out what is the most effective path and whether these people who are turned veganism initially stay vegan later. So this could actually be empirically studied. And for like the past year, I've said, I think I'm going to try and like look into that. And I never have.
Yeah, I would be interested in what are there comparative studies? I mean, what by what method are we like determining which is the most effective? Like, I wouldn't need studies on that.
The way I've thought about it is you would take a fuck ton of tweets that are tweeting about veganism, and then you do like a sentiment analysis rather, and you look at ones that are tweeting about it positively versus negatively, right? And you put those in different camps, and then you search the user's like Twitter account to look at their full history of that word, and then you more or less plot their history of the word, whether they've used it positively, negatively, etc., over whatever period of time. And then from there, you can determine whether or not this person has become vegan through their activities online. And you can look at their initial sources that made them start considering it, started making them talk about veganism in a positive way. So yeah, you could actually set up some kind of machine learning system that is just burning through like fucking thousands and thousands and thousands of tweets on veganism and determining different things. And then you would just output it into different camps, and then you would like analyze the progression, and each step along the way you would take out individual tweets, individual users, and look at their history to make sure that what you think that the data is saying is what the data is actually saying. And theoretically, you could even make like a fucking Twitter bot or a set of Twitter bots that are just constantly churning out the best quality vegan stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be really interesting. I'm with my blog, like the Vegan Video Resource Library, I'm trying to like record like who's having conversations with who, and then because I think people get stuck in their like confirmation biases with only knowing about the channels that the main channel they're watching links to, I think the whole list picture of like the different fractions in the movement. I think just knowing, even if it's wrong, just knowing about what like how people are acting in different ways. I think it's really important to know about.
Yeah,
just take that academic approach to it.
We got Red in the chat saying some people are motivated by superficial reason or benefits like gaining entertaining erections. So what if we were just like churning out fucking boner propaganda nonstop, like just mad boner propaganda all day, every day, just bots like tweeting at people with erectile dysfunction with some kind of erectile dysfunction benefits. But I don't even know how you would determine who has. Oh yeah, dude! You would tweet at a bunch of guys in their 50s, and just like whenever they talk about sex, or I don't even know how you would reach your demographic, because it's not like people are tweeting about erectile dysfunction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was Jack Green's intuition after reading Bandcamp that we needed more demographics. And I just completely disagree. I think like we need better new converts. Like we need like intellectual converts still. Yeah. So I don't think like having a mass of ridiculous people.
The bonerless guys.
When I used to live on land protests, we were always like thinking how can we like get like a bus of people to turn up at this like open cast coal mine and just protest all like run on the site, and like we always thought like we'd drive a bus down to like just the bus station where like just get a bunch of homeless people and like not quite mentally
just having maximum numbers.
Yeah, just like have like this festival thing on the mine. So.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's a guy named Robert Cialdini. Have you guys heard of him?
No.
He is one of the world's top experts on the science, the cognitive science of persuasion and how it applies to marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So there has been a pretty solid attempt at having an empirical understanding of this topic. So I don't know enough about it to say one way or the other, like what's most effective. So I have hunches and they're based on data. I just, I don't know. So I can't really cast like full aspersions on their methodology when, I don't have anything solidly empirical to point to,
I think just going after like masses is just a mistake, because you want productive people. You want people to be incentivized by your achievements. You want like people. You want like good news stories, and you need small groups of people like achieving those successes and like so being something inspiring for other people to learn.
Well, shit. So CT left when I was doing something.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Well, I guess that's basically it. That's we've said our piece. Like, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to it? Or
No, I'm good. We clip it down into a video or something, or leave it as is.
Yeah, because there's a lot of fluff. I don't know. You could cut out all me like ranting for 10 minutes straight about like obscure neuroscience shit.
That was good. Yeah, that was useful. I'm gonna do some reading later on. That's why. Maybe,
Oh,
are
dude.
you on the Philosophical Vegan Forum?
What was that?
Are you on the Philosophical Vegan Forum? Are you?
I thought you asked if I was on the Encyclopedia Dramatica forum. I was like, yeah, it's in there. No, I don't fuck with forums really. I just like I fuck with Discord, and that's basically it these days. Like you can find me on Discord. I like the dirty internet, like super fucking dirty shit. Like I said, the Encyclopedia Dramatica. Like we've been fucking with the Vegan Cheetah lately, and it's been funny.
On Discord.
Yeah, he has a Discord, and it's as bad as you would imagine it to be.
Just trying to think about what kind of conversations you have on that.
Oh, dude, it's filled with all these neo-Nazis now, and like half of them are trolls, but then like it looks like a large portion of them are real, and they're just like posting all this anti-Jewish shit all day, and so there's been like this concerted effort to I don't know, I won't go too much into details, but it's a trip. It's a trip. But I really like the dirty internet where there are people that are doing and saying very uncouth things. Like there's this YouTube channel I recently got into called The Finnish Bolshevik. Have y'all heard of him?
No, I haven't.
Oh, he's a communist channel, but he's like pro-Stalin. He's pro-Democratic Republic of North Korea. He's like, it's like fringe communist topics, right? So I love it because it's, you know, it's dirty. It's like the fringes, you know what I'm saying? So like a lot of social media platforms will shut you down if you talk about shit like that. And I like it. I like hearing about it because these people are crazy. Like a lot of them are, and it's fun.
I'll link the video in the chat. It is.
Doing that, I guess.
Yeah, dude. I like it. But I don't know. So, yeah, I spend a lot of time on Discord. That's basically where you can find me. So
I'm trying to get more active on Discord. I'm not as active for that reason because the trolling tends to be heavier on Discord, and also it's more difficult to have discussion because it's real time. So like you might talk to somebody and then like you have to scroll all the way up to like see what. Like sometimes somebody will like at me and then like I'll respond like 3 hours later and then I have to like try to find like where they added it. So I like forum discussion better just because of that.
Yeah, man, you need a fuck ton of GIFs on hand, just like to hit them, right? And then you need to like have a copy of Photoshop up so you can be like live memeing, just like fucking hitting them with it, right? And like the other day, somebody called me an insult. They called me a set of insults that were totally baseless. So I immediately just started calling them a pedophile. I'm like, you're a fucking pedo. I know you are, right? And I kept on like just like memeing it like really hard. So whenever they come at you with different things, you just got to have some kind of plan in line and like a bunch of shit to get it. Because if they're just interested in fucking with you, then you've got to like kind of keep up with it. And yeah, it's like dirty and it's kind of shitty, et cetera, but it's, you know, it's the pits of the internet. It's like shit that you can't do on other websites anymore. So
Facebook memeing is definitely a great campaign strategy. Any political election now is vital.
Yeah. Facebook, yeah, I like it. I don't know. I'm just worried about my accounts getting shut down on a variety of other websites, whereas nothing will ever get you shut down on Discord. And so I can do whatever, and it's like totally okay.
As long as the Discord moderator is okay with it, I suppose.
I think that there were like 1 or 2 Discord moderators for the entire service, because you never see them.
For which server?
For like all of the servers, there's like 1 moderator. You're talking about the appointed moderators in the server. Yeah.
Yeah, who can like actually delete you, like delete your account.
they can't. They can just kick you out of their server or whatever. But
yeah, like the person that can remove you from the Discord server.
Yeah, you just kind of gotta watch them. Like a lot of places are no holds barred, and the moderators don't give a shit about anything. But sometimes they're kind of tight. Like, have you ever been to the Flat Earth Discord? Do you know about that place?
Oh heck no, not me. I don't.
Oh, dude, we need to get you in there. It's really active. There's like 50 people in multiple calls all day, every day. And it's legitimate flat earthers that are just trying to talk about all the lies that the government are putting out there.
I mean, if you're in there like converting them, I mean that's good for you. I think that's great. I don't know if the utility is worth it. Like all that trying to convince one person that gravity exists. But hey, I mean, if you want to, go ahead.
For me, it's more about understanding the arguments. Like I like understanding things, like the Finnish Bolshevik earlier. I can't imagine ever being pro-Stalin. Can you? I mean, can you imagine thinking that Stalin really wasn't that bad of a guy?
I don't know.
I mean, I could never imagine that. So I sought out somebody who legitimately thinks that, and I listen to his arguments. I give him a fair chance, so I get to see kind of how somebody arrives to that conclusion. And whenever you follow their argumentation, it makes total sense. I mean, these people aren't just totally dumb. They just have weird assumptions, and they have. If there's two pieces of data available, then they'll always choose the one that favors their position.
You like studying like an epistemology of ignorance, like how myths spread, and
Oh yeah, I love that shit. I'm also like a fucking edgelord, so it's like I have a good time just like getting in there with them. So it's like whatever.
Human condition.
Yeah, very much. It's weird. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna get off here. We're about to get some yak and yeti, some Nepalese food.
Exciting. Is that everything you hoped for anyway, LayVegan?
Yeah, but it looks like that's it was a pretty fruitful discussion. It's pretty late. I'm getting pretty tired. What time is it where you guys are?
8:30.
3 in the morning.
8:30 p.m. or a.m.
p.m. I'm in Denver.
All right. Okay.
3 in the morning.
Oh yeah, I smoke weed every day, son.
What time is it for you, Teo?
3 in the morning. 3.
And
Okay.
where are you?
North Wales.
North Wales. Okay. Oh, UK. I see.
Yeah, Euro trash.
Alrighty. Well, I guess this is a good. So are you gonna like after we go off? Are you gonna edit it first and then re-upload?
I think I'll just let it stay, and then I might
cut off the ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'd have to delete it and re-upload it, but it's already. I don't know. We'll see. I'll talk to you about it in text. Yeah. I'll find you the link so you can download it and do what you want with it.
Okay. Alrighty.
All right. Peace out. Y'all be good.
You too.
You as well. Later.
Take care.